everyone? Welcome here to Mutant Movie Reviews by South and Normal with your host, me, Michael Soren. Today's episode, I'm going to rank the Infinity Saga Marvel films from the MCU universe. This is the original 23 films up to Spider-Man Far From Home. So starting with Iron Man up to Spider-Man Far From Home. Dropping these things all the time, so make sure you hit that subscribe button and the little bell to notify when this stuff drops. Also, give it a like if you like what I'm. Give it a like if you dig what I'm throwing down, and leave me some comments and tell me where you disagree. Here we go. Infinity Saga movies ranked. Coming in last, I had a hard time picking this one. Let me tell you, I fought which one was the worst one. Coming in 23rd place is Thor, the original Thor. Now, it's decent, but Thor, before Ragnorok, it was just downward spiraling, and you kind of didn't think they were going to continue with Thor. But here we are, Ragnarok. Now we got Love and Thunder coming out. So, despite where we are now, Thor was not very good by comparison to the other 22 films. Just something about it, it just didn't feel right, and it was just kind of off. It had nothing to do with Natalie Portman, had nothing to do with Kat Dennings and the whole storyline of him coming to Earth and all that. It's just, the whole movie was just off, comparatively. But, not to say it's bad, but it's just, in the ranking, it's at the bottom of the barrel. The next one, which was hard to pick above it, was Iron Man 2. This movie was a hot mess. Let me tell you. Iron Man 1 was phenomenal. Iron Man 3 has its strong points. But Iron Man 2 was just a hot mess, in my opinion. You had too much going on. What's his face there? The dude with the whips, whoever played him, I can't remember. I hated that character. He just was too... There was nothing to like about him, even though he's not supposed to like the bad guy. Tony Stark's counterpart there, Hammer, was good. It was a good play. I would have liked more with just them, not less with Whip guy. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I wrote it down and didn't print out on my sheet here. Oh well. Moving on. Coming in 22nd was Iron Man 2. 21st, we're going with Thor: The Dark World. Better than Thor, still not that great. Yeah, just the overall first two Thor movies are just meh. They did their job. They were good placeholders until the next Avengers, but overall, they weren't very good. In 20th, The Incredible Hulk. I like both Hulk movies, the Eric Bana one and the Ed Norton one. I think Eric Bana's Hulk was way better. Ang Lee did such a better job. But without this Hulk, we wouldn't have Hulk in the MCU. And then, like Terrence Howard, Edward Norton bucked Marvel's trend of being... and started trying to be a little too greedy in their eyes, and they were just like, you're replaceable, and we got Mark Ruffalo. But The Incredible Hulk is a decent movie. Forget the Abomination, I think, is what Tim Roth plays. It was an interesting dynamic, to say the least, but a fun little fact about this one, I'll tell more on later, was when this movie came out, I was working at the theater, opening night, midnight row, someone puked all over the first row in front of them, and we had to evacuate the theater. This guy just kept throwing up on people because he was so hammered. But that's another story for another time. Make sure you follow along and hit that notification button for when more movie theater story time drops by here at South and Normal. But 20th place, Incredible Hulk. 19th, Spider-Man Far From Home. This was the one immediately following End Game, the Marvel one. It was decent. It was good. I was entertained. Just kind of sloppy. Introduced Edith. It introduced some more dramatic side, more sad side in the MCU for Spider-Man, and kind of moved his story along to where they are now. But overall, it wasn't as good as the ones that come before it now. So in 18th place is Captain Marvel. As a 90s kid, this movie, loved it with all the nostalgia pieces in it. And it just played right in my alley, especially the Mallrats reference. That had me... So I love that movie for some reason. I do. It just hits home to me. And I love the fact that they played on the cameo Stan Lee makes in this movie. But overall, Captain Marvel was a little weak. Brie Larson is good in the role of Captain Marvel, but just something about this movie was off. It was tame by comparison. Hopefully the next one's better. So Captain Marvel is coming in 18th place. In 17th place, Captain America, the First Avenger. Now, you wouldn't have some of the ones later on my list that are higher ranking without this one, but this one, it was long. It had a lot of ground to do. This was before we had the Disney Plus doing all the series. This was before Disney owned it. This one might have served better as being a series to start and kick off this franchise. That's just my opinion, because there's a lot of pipe to lay. So the movie was long, and there's a lot of drawn out pieces. Might have behooved it to be a series, but they weren't really doing well with series at this point, as they are now. So I understand it. That's why it ranks where it ranks. In 16th place, Doctor Strange. Again, this one had a lot of pipe to lay. Probably would have behooved it to be a series. It was good. I did not know what to expect with Doctor Strange. I had no idea who he was. Cumberbatch as him is excellent. It's proven now with Doctor Strange 2, Multiverse of Madness. But it's just, in the grand scheme of the Infinity Saga, it needed to introduce a character and tell you who he was, and it did just that, not much more. 15th place, Age of Ultron. Avengers Age of Ultron. Again, we wouldn't have some of the characters we have today without this movie. We wouldn't have a lot of the subplots that carry over into other films without this movie. But overall, this movie was not, it wasn't as good as the rest. Now, I like the darker ones, and this is a darker one with the Sokovia Accord coming from it and all the death and all that. So it is on the darker side, which I enjoy the darker, downbeat movies, but this one just had too much going over the top, too much going on, and not enough time to do it justice. Very ambitious. It's good. Like I said, we wouldn't have Scarlet Witch without it. In the grand scheme of things, it comes in at 15th. In 14th place, Iron Man 3. Now, I don't really much care for Iron Man 3, but it humanized Tony Stark in a way, because it gave him the PTSD. It gave him all these human aspects that we didn't really see before. In the end, Iron Man 3 is it's down there on the list. It is what it is. I'll go more into that in more detail when I launch individual reviews for all these movies, but we're just doing rankings right now. In 13th place, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Volume 1 was fantastic. Volume 2 was good. I think overall for me it was better than Volume 1, but in the rankings, the way I put it together, it's got its ranking down lower than Volume 1. Like, again, I'll get into this more in detail later, so subscribe, follow along for when that comes out. In 12th, Antman and the Wasp. This one introduced, I forget what the one character, I'm drawing a blank, I should have wrote it down, I didn't. The one with the main villain who's like glitching out, and they're trying to save her. She was kind of cool. That whole aspect was cool, but having to go in and save Pym's wife was an interesting story, and it set up Ant-Man coming into End Game and not being part of the clique. So that was necessary, but it was a sequel to do a sequel to kind of get more aspects of the story told before the next Avengers. It didn't serve much else other than to introduce the Wasp as well. After that, coming in 11th place, the first Avengers movie. Based on my previous rankings and other ones, it should be higher because of what it established, but I went a different route with this ranking system. It's a great little film. It does what it needs to do. It gets the team together, and that's about it. It advances the story towards Endgame. It served its purpose. It establishes S.H.I.E.L.D. It establishes all these things. In 10th place, Spider-Man Homecoming. Now, this reestablished Spider-Man and ignited a fan base that was already pretty high in ignition level, but it just added the nitrous to it to burst them even higher. Because Tom Holland as Spider-Man has been fantastic. Not that Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire weren't. They're good in their own right, but in this series, like, this film just ignited the masses. And it's a collaboration of Sony and Marvel, which hopefully will continue with Spider-Man and other titles, because other titles have sucked outside of Spider-Man. But Spider-Man No Way Home, 10th place. In 9th place, the first Ant-Man. I didn't expect this to be that high, but I'm a Paul Rudd shill. That man is phenomenal, and we all love him. What is it, Paul? Why? But Ant-Man's a good little movie. It establishes the character well. It does its own thing outside of the Avengers. It doesn't rely on them for the most part. So I liked Ant-Man, ninth place. In eighth place, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. Admittedly, when this first came out, I didn't want to watch it. I was in this funk because I just stopped working at the movie theater. I hated going to the theater because of the experiences I had working there, and I just couldn't get myself to watch this. I saw Volume 2 before I saw Volume 1, and I was like, wow, Volume 2 was fantastic. Maybe Volume 1's worth a shot now. So in Volume 1, it just, the filmmaking overall was just good, just great. And that's why I put it up higher than Volume 2, was because it pulled me out of this funk I was in. So maybe there's an emotional attachment. I was like, this pulled me out and got me back into going to the theater and all that stuff. So I gave it a little boost in the rankings because of that. Number 7, Iron Man. Started this whole thing. Jon Favreau, Robert Downey Jr. started it all and got the ball rolling with Marvel with Iron Man. Without this, we wouldn't have the rest. Maybe it should be number 1, but no, it's not. It's good. It deserves its place at number 7, but not number 1. 6, Thor Ragnarok. This movie is fantastic. It reversed where Thor was and flipped it on its head and made it better. And it saved Thor, in my opinion. We wouldn't have Thor Love and Thunder coming out without Ragnarok. Thor might have been killed off in one of the Avengers ones because the first 2 Thors were so just down and bad. And the Ragnarok is such a good time when you watch it. It's got drama, it's got comedy, it's got Hela just beating the shit out of everyone and being unstoppable. Just great fight sequences. Thor Ragnarok, number 6. Number 5, Black Panther. I think this is the only Avengers MCU movie to be nominated for an Oscar, if that tells you anything. Chadwick is gone, unfortunately, so Black Panther 2 is going to sorely miss him and his contributions to this. But I have no doubt in my mind that they will adjust accordingly and pay great tribute to him in the next Black Panther films and Marvel series where Black Panther's character is needed. But this movie was overall excellent. I was not expecting that, because when I first saw it announced, it was in that funk of like, and I was surprised. Michael B. Jordan's fantastic in this. But Chadwick is phenomenal in this, and the story of the family drama in this is told so well. So, number 5, Black Panther. Number 4, Avengers Infinity War. Everyone's like, why is this not number 2? Infinity War did its job. It was long. It established what needed to be established in End Game. It's a downer, which I like. I like when movies are downers. Not everything has to be a happy ending. But I just feel the top 3 were a little better than Infinity War. Coming in at 3rd, Captain America Civil War. Now, we're getting, the top 3 are probably going to be the most controversial. I'm probably going to get a lot of flack. I hope I do. I hope to see those comments flying. But Captain America Civil War tells such a great story of the divide after the Sokovia Accords and all that. And it establishes so much in the universe for the next few movies, and it does it so well, and everyone's on their game by this point. So the character portrayals are perfect. The story's great, and it was basically an Avengers movie. Like, didn't need to be a standalone Captain America one. Kind of like Doc Strange is more of a Wanda first episode than the Doc Strange movie, but another time, another place. But number 3, Captain America Civil War. Oh boy, what is number 2? End Game. I gave End Game number 2. It is phenomenal. I cried at it. It was, for a brief time, it was the number 1 movie of all time, money-wise, until they re-released Avatar for a week just to get that extra $5 and go back over the top. But I watched Endgame so many times when it first came out. Like, I wasted time. Just like, I could have been doing so much other stuff, but I had to watch Endgame. I had to. It was so good. But in the grand scheme of things, I feel Captain America Winter Soldier, number 1. I feel that movie was done perfectly. It told great story of Steve Rogers trying to just acclimate back into society. Like, he's bewildered and his life's upside down. Then all of a sudden this reference from his past comes back, and Bucky, and the story of that in the filmmaking wise is so good. I'm surprised it didn't get nominated for other stuff. But Avengers End Game, while phenomenal, I hold Winter Soldier above that from a filmmaking perspective and just overall movie perspective. Those are my rankings for the Infinity Saga, all 23 movies. This has been the rankings of the Infinity Saga 1 through 23. Subscribe for more great content, more lists. I got plenty of reviews coming your way. You guys are awesome. Thanks for tuning in. Peace.